It's the What If Podcast. These are the pods so frail. We out here cause we got Bear all up in our voicemail. Y'all know the email. Y'all know the number to call. Y'all our beautiful weird family. We finally got it all. From now when we started, now it started to flip. We grown now tonight, talking old weird shit. Batteries in Egypt, computers in Greece, airplanes from old times. That shit'll give you the creeps. Shit that shouldn't have been there way back in the day. It's the What If Podcast, y'all. Holy shit. Hey.
What up?
Bars!
Ryan!
What's up?
Hey!
Hey!
Bad Blamit boy.
Oh,
Bad Blamit boy.
God, dag blamit, Bear, we love you so much. God. Awesome.
Our guy has just been going back through all of our old episodes now and calling us to tell us what he thinks of them one at a time.
Which means I get roughly 100 fucking awesome voicemails.
Dude, it's the best.
Woo!
I think we're going to give him a call live on the Patreon episode this week.
Yeah.
Because he's getting a little annoyed with us that we haven't called him back. It's starting to feel a little Stan-like, so I think we got to hit him back.
And you know what I want to...
And say what up.
You know what the last thing I want to do is?
What's that?
Upset Bear in any humanly possible capacity.
No, he doesn't deserve that.
No, he does not.
He deserves the exact opposite
He
of
is
that.
a faithful, committed listener who uses our voicemail exactly how we like it to be used, which is for whatever the fuck you guys feel like.
Bear deserves nothing but the best.
Uh-huh.
And he deserves our love and attention. And you all deserve Bear as well. So we're going to try and share that with you.
Yep.
Come Friday.
Yeah, cool. That'll be on the Patreon episode this week, the paid episode. Thanks to everybody who joined the Patreon this week. We got a bunch of new ones of y'all. Just a quick reminder for those that do and don't know, we do this twice as much as you're hearing it this week. We've got a paid episode that if you go to patreon.com/whatifpodcast, it's only $5 a month, and you get 2 episodes a week instead of just one. It comes right into your pod player, and sometimes we do interesting shit like call listeners. Like
and sometimes
Bear.
it sucks. I'm going to be honest. It's not always the best.
Sometimes we're a little drunk from the normal episode, and we get a little bit off the rails and argue about Will Smith.
Sometimes I just get really mad about alien stories, and we do that for an hour and realize it's been an hour, and then we stop.
Spencer berates me for being mad about other people's stories. And,
well, sometimes it's that, but usually it's pretty fun.
It is fun, and we often do strange musical things on there too, like more freestyling and or bar writing and or music games about ICP.
Speaking of voicemails, you want to hear one that we got this week?
Yes.
Jeez, you okay?
That was my attempt at
It scared me.
Again, like wheel spin, but it didn't really work.
Mm.
What up, guys? Love the show. I'm also a local. My name is Brian, Minneapolis. You guys know me, but I'm not going to share my last name on the podcast.
Oh, what up, Brian?
Anyway, I work in junk removal, and I had this customer one time. I went to her house to just take some shit from her. She started talking to me about aliens, and nobody ever really talked to me about aliens while I'm taking their fucking old-ass garbage from them before.
I mean, I get that.
She started, after the job, telling me about the fucking encounter that she had, and I'm like, okay, I guess this is happening now.
Yeah.
And she goes, there was like an 8-foot tall praying mantis in my bedroom. I was laying in bed, and I was like instantly paralyzed. And I'm like, that's a trope.
Brian knows his shit.
That's a
He knows about the
pattern.
insect people.
And then they were coming towards her, and they had like syringes on their arm, and she
syringes?
was telepathically told that they were not there to harm her, and she regained motion and just kicked the thing away from her, and they stabbed her in the leg, and she's like, I have a scar, do you want to see it? And I was like, no thank you, I don't want to see it. Because I'm just taking her fucking junk.
Correct. That is a correct answer, Brian.
No, it's not.
But
you take a photo, you send it to us.
yeah, then she says that after that there was like a big ass circle of dead grass in her backyard for the next 4 years. So, I don't know. Just wanted your opinion on that. See if that's real. Or...
That's it. That's
He
the
says
end.
or and then hung up. Fuck yeah, Brian. Is that real or click?
I like that he thinks that
It's real.
Right.
It's real, Brian. I know it. It's real.
Yeah, so a random lady told me that a giant insect stabbed her in the leg.
Is it real?
I'm gonna say yes.
Yes.
It sure sounds like it.
So I understand. No, it's great, Brian. Shout out to Brian. Brian, thanks for calling and telling us that fucking story. I don't know about your take, man. I don't.
My take?
Yeah.
That you check out the stab wound?
Yeah.
I think if anybody says, do you want to see where I got stabbed, even if it wasn't by an 8-foot tall insect from outer space,
Mantis, yeah.
I think I still say yes, honestly.
I mean, I guess like I used to live in a neighborhood in Minneapolis called Stevens Square, and there was this one woman who
Did you get stabbed?
No, but
Oh.
there was this woman who
Can I
had,
see it?
this would be a safe space to share a stab wound. Now, strangers, you just never know what you're getting. There was this lady who lived in Stevens Square who she would be like down by the bodega on the corner, and she would just hop out into the street, and she'd be like, "You can't catch me, copper. Ooh, am I jaywalking? Am I jaywalking, copper?" And she's yelling at me. For what it's worth, I've never looked much like a cop. I still don't.
Ryan is the cops. You guys can't see him. He's the cops.
I wear Jordans and like have a beard, and like I don't look like a police officer.
Ryan looks like a not very believable undercover officer who's supposed to be like catching the kids who listen to the hippity hop.
the hippity. I'm a half cop. No,
Ryan's like the guy who's like too big to be in high school and is asking a lot of questions.
I'm like what's that fucking actor's name? Oh god damn it.
Yep, keep going. Steve
God damn
Buscemi.
it, Steve Buscemi. Thank you. Steve Buscemi in whatever that fucking sketch was where he's like, "Hello, fellow youngsters." Is that from a movie? What is that from?
You've only seen it from the meme, I'm guessing.
I've seen the, but no, I think I've seen the movie too, though. I just can't remember what it is right now. What's the movie?
On this week's episode of Ryan Thinks Memes
Has
Are
Ryan
Movies.
seen it? It's not just a meme. Steve Buscemi doesn't get paid as an actor to show up and shoot memes.
On this week's episode of Spencer Makes Fun of Ryan for seeing movies that Spencer hasn't seen either.
You fucking asshole.
I don't know what movie that is.
Oh, God, now I got to find out because if I've seen it and you haven't, then I really get to fucking dunk on you hard. Hey, speaking of dunking on people.
Oh, dude, it's gone sideways.
I got requested. Somebody was like, "Hey, what happened to Spencer's dunking abilities?" And I was like,
don't worry about it.
Dunkwatch died. How did we let Dunkwatch die?
Hey, look. Things got away from me for a minute there.
All right. All right.
This is me scratching my chin into the microphone,
Because-
trying to come up with a good excuse.
For not being able to dunk.
Yeah,
yet?
I got nothing.
All right. The point I was trying to make about rewinding back to my days in Stevens Square was
right,
that
when you were a cop.
there are crazy people who will do crazy things like yell at you and expose themselves to you in ways that you are not interested
That was
in.
the point of that story?
What I'm trying to say is if you say yes to that person, they might be like, "How dare you look at my naked leg, you crazy man, get away from me." And then you get
And
arrested.
then you get stabbed.
or stabbed back. Yeah,
now
exactly.
you've also been stabbed.
That's just an elaborate ploy to get you to become stabbed. So,
I have become stabbed.
hey, this is a very interesting story, but I have to leave immediately in the middle of it. And then you just Homer Simpson your ass into the bushes and fucking leave and don't take any of the junk with you, Brian.
Hey, did
That's
you
what
stab
do.
me? No.
Sorry.
I'm getting dicked on this one.
Sure enough.
All right, you want to talk about weird old shit?
The shit that's weird and old. Oh, wait, we have one more announcement before we dive into our old weird shit.
We do?
We do.
What do we do? What do we have?
Well, yep.
Do we have the do?
Maybe we should do an announcement so Spencer can put his lips back on his face before we actually start talking. We told you guys last week that we were going to be figuring out a date for our Facebook Live episode. And we done did that. We figured out a date. So thanks to everybody who's reviewed us on iTunes. We said for every 100 reviews we get on iTunes, we'll do a Facebook Live episode. We'll put it on the page and in the group. the Facebook group, and you guys can come hang out and watch us be idiots in the studio together and ask us questions, and we'll answer your questions live on Facebook and all that shit. So,
Yeah.
July 29th at 4 p.m. Central Time in the U.S., we're going to be hopping on the old Book of Faces and showing y'all our faces. So you guys...
Answering your questions.
Answering your questions. If you wanna have a question specifically for the live pod, you can send us an email at hi@whatifpodcast.com and just say,
Or just jump in there and start asking us stuff.
You could do that too, but if you want to get it in advance, just put Facebook Live in your subject line and send us an email at hi@whatifpodcast.com, and we'll try to answer questions. But yeah, you can also just
see
put
us
them in
get
there.
stabbed live on Facebook.
God, I fucking hope not.
Well,
You planning?
I guess you'll have to find out.
You planning something that I don't know about?
That's how I'm going to tease the Facebook Live episode. I might stab Ryan. Tune in next week on Is Ryan Stabbed?
I thought you were. It's our new offshoot podcast.
Yep.
It's a 5-second podcast every week. It just goes, nope.
Or,
Yep. Yeah, there it is. Me screaming in pain or me screaming nope. I thought the other option was that you were going to invite like a particularly stabby friend over and be
Ooh.
like,
who's? Do we have a stabbiest friend? I don't know.
who would be our stabbiest friend?
I'm going to go over to Franklin Nicollet and find that lady.
That's real. That's real. Hey, I heard you.
Hey, remember that cop that used to live in your neighborhood? You want to stab him?
I've been waiting years for this. She'd be thrilled. She'd be thrilled.
Hey, he's just hanging out at my house waiting to get stabbed.
Yeah. So yeah, July 29th, 4 p.m. in the Facebook
How long are
group
we
and
hanging
on our
out for?
Facebook
Like
page.
an hour or two or so?
Well,
or
I don't
10
know.
or
I kinda
however
feel
long
like-
it's fun?
I feel like until you guys stop giving a shit about the answers we have to give you, we'll keep hanging out.
We're just gonna be slowly declining until it's really sad.
I'm gonna hold
and
a-
then we're gonna stop.
I'm gonna be holding a Rubik's Cube, and Spencer is gonna be doing like a crossword puzzle.
We're just gonna be
It'll be silence for every 5 minutes. Be like, oh shit, we got a question. Fucking thrilled.
dad blam it, boys.
Dag blam it, boys. I blew that one out a little bit.
You know.
Coming in hot, boys. Coming in hot. So yeah, attend. We hope we see you there. It'll be fun.
Cool. And we are doing a live in-person episode in September
So you can really see our faces.
in Minneapolis, Minnesota, September 19th at Ice House.
Pew, pew, pew.
We're going to be hanging out, talking about weird shit. Our friend Lydia Liza is going to play some music. Some other weird things might happen.
We're gonna have some guests. We're gonna have a DJ.
Yeah.
And we're gonna get wild and crazy and celebrate 100 episodes of the
Plan
show.
those road trips.
Yeah. I've seen on the Twitter and in the
There's
Facebook
some
group.
things
There's a
brewing.
handful of people
Yeah.
that are like, this, which sounds like a fucking party.
Let's do it.
Let's do it.
All right, you want to start or should I start with the weird old shit that's old and weird? And
Go ahead. Go
Okay.
ahead. Let's see what we got. We, as always, Spencer and I both
So
researched
prepared.
weird old shit, and we don't know what weird old shit each other have.
it's like playing rock, paper, scissors of made up nonsense.
Except we might both have rock, and rock.
Got the Baghdad Battery on there?
Of course I do.
Okay, let's start there.
Yeah, buddy, rolling like a big shot. Well, should we talk a little bit about
Chevy tuned up like a
a
NASCAR pit stop.
There we go. Should we talk a little bit about what an out of place artifact is to begin with before we start telling some stories?
Ooh, parts.
Ooh, parts. Ooh, parts?
Ooh, parts.
It reminded me of, I was actually thinking about an acronym for it too, and it reminded me of the OOP, reminded me of Minnesotans' inclination to make an OP sound when they,
Is that a Minnesotan thing?
I feel like it's a very Midwestern thing. I don't know if
Okay.
it's exclusively Minnesotan, but we like to say like "oop" when we're like going around someone.
It's a thing you say
or-
instead of "excuse me" if your grandparents were Norwegian.
Yeah, or if something surprises you.
Yeah.
Oop, oop,
Arts.
oop parts.
Old stuff that seems like it shouldn't have been able to exist at the time that it is claimed to have existed.
Yeah, that's the
An out of place artifact. So like a battery said to have been made around 200 AD, for example.
Tell me more.
Well, I'm just saying that's the first of the, you know.
Oh, okay. I was
yeah.
gonna say like if you could just segue
But you
right
get
in
the
at that
idea.
point.
Yeah, right.
Yeah. I mean, it's
Airplanes from Egyptian times.
Yep, we're gonna go there too.
Well, you know, like ancient Egypt. Egypt's still around. They have airplanes, but you know what I mean.
That'd be so fucked up if we were like, "Can you believe Egypt has airplanes?"
Not what I meant, guys.
It's fucked up, man.
The Baghdad Battery
Oh dang.
is actually a set of 3 separate artifacts, or not 3 separate, but 3 related artifacts.
Baghdad does have batteries today, by the way, guys.
Yes, correct.
We are not just shocked by contemporary batteries existing in the country.
And the 3 pieces were a ceramic pot, a tube of copper, and a rod of iron. That the copper tube and the iron rod fit inside of the opening of the ceramic pot.
Nesting pipes, bro.
Yeah, sort of like that.
Kind of.
And it was found in Iraq, and it is estimated to be from, well, there's a pretty big range. Anywhere from 155 AD up to 650 AD, based on the style of pottery and when you can, I guess, date ceramic based on when it was fired. I don't know exactly how that works, what elements decay and are only present after firing and so on. But
I assume it's some semblance of carbon dating or something like
Yeah,
that. But
exactly.
I don't entirely understand that concept.
it was discovered in 1938, just outside of modern-day Baghdad.
Mm-hmm.
And it was discovered by a German archaeologist named Wilhelm Koenig. Or Koenig? That's the painter.
I would say
Koenig.
I would say Koenig.
Yeah, okay, we'll go with that. Koenig.
Yeah.
It showed signs of corrosion.
Wow.
Yes.
Sorry, there's an umlaut over the O, and that's just the funnest word to say.
Many umlauts,
Many
bro.
umlauts.
The inside of the ceramic vessel showed like corrosion. So there was some sort of acid inside of this vessel.
Uh-huh.
It may have been something just like juice, like acidic, like citric acid, or it may have been something vinegary or wine, or maybe something stronger. Who knows? And there are many hypotheses about what it may have been, but one of them is that it was a form of battery or a way of generating electric current.
Yeah.
You want to get into some of the weird theories about it?
For sure.
Since we both had this one?
Yeah. So, well, I'm not going to claim to understand exactly how the science of an acidic compound mixed with copper, iron, and terracotta all work together to fully create a battery. Like the science of that, I don't fully understand. But I know that
If you guys want to search YouTube, there are people who have recreated this and done experiments that have actually resulted in current being generated up to 2-ish volts.
Yeah, in fact, the old homies over at Mythbusters. Who
did they do an episode on
we
that?
We don't reference super often, but yeah, the Mythbusters did one.
I only do because I've never really watched that show.
Really?
Or, I mean, I only don't because I've never really watched that show.
Yeah, I watched it like occasionally. I just always hated it because they put commercials in the worst spots, and you're like, "Is it real?"
Like
and then
cliffhangery spots.
cliffhangery where you wanted to know if the myth was busted or not, and then they would
Those
send
sound
you
like
to
the
a,
right spots to show you advertisements for Menards.
It worked. I watched a lot of Dodge.
Yeah, there
Commercials
you go.
or whatever.
There it is.
But yeah, they did. It was actually really early on in the show too. It was back in 2005. They took a bunch, not a bunch, but I think it was like, I can't remember what the number was. A handful of terracotta jars together and recreated this with lemon juice instead of wine or vinegar or whatever for the acidic compound.
Probably about as acidic as you can get in terms of the juices, right?
Yep. I guess it's the acid from the lemon juice does something to activate a chemical reaction between the copper and wire in close proximity, which
The copper and the iron, you mean?
what'd I say?
The copper and the wire.
Copper and the iron, which
So it's the copper is wrapped around the iron rod, is that the idea? And then stuck like down into the vessel?
I believe
so
it's
sort of like suspended in the middle of the vessel?
the way I understood it was that it was either propped on the bottom or connected to the lid at the top to keep it standing.
I think there's like a stopper at the top so that it's
Fits it snugly in the
hanging
top.
down from the top of the base.
Got it. And the rod fits inside of the other rod so that they're...
I understood it to be more of like an iron rod with copper wrapped around it.
Oh, I thought it was like an actual like a copper like I'm thinking of like aluminum sheathing almost. So like a long plate of it that you would like wrap it around so that it was in like a tube form. We're basically saying the same thing.
Yeah.
A tube of copper wrapped around a rod of iron.
Yeah.
But yeah, just to your point, they got up to when they connected them in a series. So I think that means you use some sort of metal to connect the actual iron pieces together. They were able to get 4 volts out of their series of terracotta.
Oh. Do you know how many they had?
I had it in here and now I can't remember where it was.
That's okay.
10.
So 10 of them produced a total of 4 volts when used in series?
Yep.
Okay. Because, I read anything from like 0.5-ish volts each to up to 2, but maybe...
I'm sure it all depends on
maybe
size
like,
of the metal and...
Maybe you lose some efficiency by daisy chaining ceramic pots together also.
I mean,
it's probably not perfectly efficient.
Not the most efficient circuit that's ever been electrically engineered. But it works. That's the crazy part, is that it works. It has been...
Yeah, but, okay.
Go ahead.
4 volts can do what, though?
Well, there's the most, I guess, commonly hypothesized thing is it can electroplate things.
Okay.
So using like an additional compound of some sort of metal. I actually saw it sounded real nasty. What was the there's like a nasty fucking chemical that you can use.
So electroplating is what? Adding a thin layer of metal
basically.
to another type of metal?
Yeah, the hypothesis is
using
that
electricity somehow?
yes.
Okay.
The hypothesis is that there's a potential that a lot of things that are potentially seen as gold in Egypt that are potentially in museums in a lot of places were actually things that they were electroplating using a system,
something else.
Something like this. Yeah.
Ancient Egypt is especially interesting because, and in this context, because you think about all the the inside of the pyramids and all the underground things that they built.
Yep.
That don't appear to have been lit by fire.
Yeah.
And there's the whole mystery of like how were they able to do all this work and do this intricate painting and stuff inside of the pyramids and in the underground burial chambers and stuff without light.
Right.
And
not to mention that they would, if they lit a bunch of fires in there, they would burn off a limited supply of oxygen in a very small room.
Right. And I think part of the reason that they've concluded that they didn't burn torches and stuff in there is that there would be like remnants of that on the walls and on the ceilings.
Oh,
and stuff.
Sure. That makes sense.
That would have lasted at least this long or until a lot of those areas were uncovered.
Yep.
So I've read stuff about like were they reflecting sunlight in there somehow, and they had like a series of mirrors or something where they could direct light into the areas where they needed to work. Or I guess this for the first time I'm thinking maybe there was some sort of electric light system, or like at least on a very small scale that would allow a couple people or one person to work on a small area.
Yeah, I mean I don't know what's your ultimate light vessel at the end of it, right?
Huh?
Like a light bulb requires...
You need a filament or something
that's going to glow to create light. Although
that doesn't seem like that big of a stretch, honestly, though.
No,
from electroplating metals to like having a metal glow.
Yeah,
based from electricity, that seems like a sort of a logical step, honestly, and like something that may have just not survived from almost 2,000 years ago.
Sure. I mean, they say, like a lot of the skeptics say that the voltage produced by these things wouldn't have been enough to actually electroplate things or potentially to actually like make a light shine. But the thing that I kept thinking about when I was reading this was like, well, yeah, that's what happens when you find one. But like, look at the scale of a lot of what they did in ancient Egypt,
Right.
What's to say that they weren't like, if you were like, well, one can do this, what can two do?
It's so hard with like Iraq in specific because so much stuff hasn't survived.
Right.
Because that part of the world has been in like pretty constant turmoil for a lot of history.
Right.
And we know that tons of artifacts were destroyed, much less the ones that we don't know about.
Right.
And, yeah, for every one thing that we do find and know about, there are probably 10 that have been lost.
Definitely.
Or intentionally destroyed or accidentally destroyed or whatever.
Right.
That we just don't have access to or know about and won't. And so it's hard to ever get any sort of context for any of this stuff. Like this, even this one artifact, they have found exactly one.
Yep.
And they can only date it within a range of like 400 to 500 years, which makes a huge difference.
Right.
But I mean, the fact that there is only one of something is also like what makes this so weird.
Right.
You would think if it was common practice, more than one would have survived, and like maybe at some point we'll find more.
Right.
But I think that's why there's so much speculation and uncertainty around it. Is like we don't even really know what it was for.
Right.
We're not totally sure what we're looking at. We don't really know when it was from.
Right.
And like we have guesses at all of those things. And we've been able to recreate it in a way that does something, but we have no idea of knowing like if that was even the intent of it.
Something, yeah.
Yeah. Or if they did it differently to produce more of whatever desired effect it was they were looking for.
Right.
We could be totally off base thinking that it was for electroplating. It could have been, who knows?
Right.
We just found 3 pieces that seem like they sort of fit together.
Right. Well, and you know, one of the things that I was thinking about too is in a lot of these sort of ancient archaeological places in the world. I think we talked about this when we talked about the pyramids on an episode. I don't know what episode that was.
50-ish.
Something somewhere around there. But when we were talking about the pyramids, I remember we talked about how part of what makes it so hard to potentially find contextual replicas of some of these things is that a lot of that stuff is off limits or harder to...
In the case of Egypt specifically?
In the case of
saying?
Egypt specifically,
Yeah.
It's hard to go, you know, you might find one thing, but it's really hard to get a permit to be like, well, we want to just dig up that whole area and see what we find. Right. That's not as easy as people think it is.
Super political and
right.
There's a constant balance of conservation versus exploration.
Completely.
And with things that are thousands of years old, it's hard to explore them without doing some amount of destruction sometimes.
Totally, 100%. The speculation on the other side of things, when you said like we don't even know what it was used for, we don't. I mean, we don't. But there's some archaeologists and scholars from the time who say that the sort of double rod or wrapped rod concept was potentially used for scroll storage. So as a way to wrap a scroll around a thing and then keep it dry inside of another location, you would wrap a scroll around the metal piping and then close the terracotta lid so that it would then basically be preserved in its wrapped form and without water getting to it.
What would the corrosion inside of the vessel be then?
Exactly. The thought being potentially if it was already corroded, that if the terracotta had gone through some sort of, you know, it's been storing wine for 10 years and once the terracotta pots are kind of getting old and shitty, they're like, all right, well, we'll put scrolls in them now instead. So like a separate, you know, was used for one thing and then got used for something else later because of corrosion.
Yeah, but if the point is to preserve something, you wouldn't want to use a vessel that was being repurposed and had been contaminated with something else previously.
Probably not, no, but it's interesting because that's what skeptics of the battery theory generally point to as, well, there were sort of similar devices that were used for scroll storage around the same period of time that we think that might be what this is for.
And they were just ignorant to the fact that it could also legitimately produce electrical current? And what would the copper be doing in there? Why would you need 2 metals for that?
Well, I was under the understanding that the copper wasn't necessarily found inside of the pot. It was found like adjacent to it.
Oh.
So
and it was assumed that they were used
the 3
together?
pieces fit like perfectly together as a unit. So that's what makes people think that they were used in conjunction, which obviously makes sense. But some people are like, well, maybe they were separate pieces. Maybe the rod was for wrapping scrolls and this was for storing other things. And maybe, you know. So, but again, like I'm only explaining the sort of devil's advocate side of the skepticism because I find it interesting that even those people can't prove that either. Like they're not like...
No, it's all speculation.
Yeah.
Yeah. Because we have no context.
Right. And those people also say, you know, the voltage would have been too low. But like we said,
For what, though?
Right.
And how do we know?
Right. We don't.
Because one thing that I was thinking about so if you have copper wiring or copper, whatever, wrapped around iron is magnetic, correct?
Yeah.
Doesn't moving a magnet through a wire create current
Yes.
on its own?
Question mark?
So,
My cousin is an electrical engineer.
Yeah,
who
I mean,
listens
this
to
is
the
like
show. He's
extremely
gonna fight me.
basic shit that we should probably just know as human beings who
Yes.
have lived for 30 years. But
Hey-o. But guess what, motherfuckers?
Fuck with me, I'm grown now.
Sorta. Grown and dumb. Fuck with your boys.
ooh, I almost lost some beverage on that one.
Dog gamut, boys.
Dad blam it, boy.
Oh, it was close.
I think he says dad blam it. Let's listen carefully.
Dad blam it, boys.
It does sound like, but I think it might be Dag Blam It, boys.
Dad blam it, boys.
It does sound like Dad Blam It.
I hear a pretty hard D on the.
There's a hard D there. Tell me more about that hard D, Spencer. Y'all, because this is a podcast, I just want to say Spencer said the phrase hard D and literally put his hand over his mouth after he said it.
and just look down.
Oops.
Heck.
Um,
All right. What else you got on that list?
shit.
We found an old battery in the desert.
We found an old battery. Well, I got a couple interesting ones that are much less technologically advanced, but I think interesting
Tight.
illustrations of the similar concept.
Let's do it.
What you know about the Saqqara Bird?
Saqqara Bird?
Saqqara Bird.
Saqqara Bird.
I think it's Saqqara. QQ?
The
Saqqara?
Saqqara Bird. Is that the Egyptian maybe a bird, maybe an airplane bit?
Yeah.
That they rebuilt on the first season of Ancient Aliens?
Oh, did they really?
Yeah.
Ooh, I have not seen that episode.
Yep, they proved that it can function as a glider.
Oh, dang.
Mm-hmm.
So, in 1898.
Oh, dang.
Is that a different aw dang, or is that just a
I
louder
don't
aw
know.
dang?
It just sounded.
Did you put some reverb on the aw
I
dang?
don't know why it sounded weird.
Oh, dang.
Eh.
Sounds like there's a snare drum hiss on the aw dang now.
Holy shit! Hey!
Yeah, we do. We got some weird effects on there.
Well, you know, you get what you get around here. Listen, this shit is free.
Hey!
We're not like professional audio fuck.
Yeah, we are. And by we, I mean you. Looking at you.
Anyway, that big flying thing in Egypt.
Here's looking at you, bud.
Tell me about it.
So it was discovered in 1898. There was an excavation in Saqqara, Egypt, which after who the bird is named.
Yes.
Paddleman tomb. Ooh, goo.
Natalie Portman's character from the Star Wars prequels.
Yes, that's where she's buried. That's where her character is buried.
R.I.P.
R.I.P. to Natalie Portman's character in Star Wars.
Real quick, does this fix our dang?
Oh, dang.
Oh no, it made it worse.
It made it way weirder. Well,
Whole program's cocked, bud. Keep going.
we out here. They were able to date this artifact that they found in the excavation of the tomb to about 200 BC. So 2,200 years old now.
Nailed it.
That artifact is made of the wood of a sycamore tree. The bird is about 7 inches wide and only weighs about 1.4 ounces.
That sounds about right if you want to fly and stuff.
It's pretty small, very light and pretty wide.
Hollow bones. Yes.
Hollow bones. Sycamore, very, very light wood. And I imagine if you've seen that photo, or excuse me, if you've seen that that episode, you've seen photos of the Saqqara bird. Yes.
I'm just going to assume that all of our listeners have watched the entirety of Ancient Aliens. That's the premise from which I've been operating for this whole thing.
I don't think that's safe though, because I've only seen like 2 episodes and we do this show together.
Look, first thing, you need to catch up.
You right.
Secondly, if you haven't watched all of Ancient Aliens, hit pause. We'll be here. Go catch up and come back. It's fine.
You'll get a lot more of our references, I'm sure.
Yeah, then maybe just start
Not
over
more
from the
of them.
beginning, honestly.
Of our show or of Ancient Aliens?
Yeah, give us a re-listen from the tippy.
I have heard that Ancient Aliens first 4 seasons were some of the better seasons, and that they have.
It's definitely total garbage now.
Okay, they've gone a bit off the rails,
and I don't even necessarily mean that. I mean, they started way off the rails.
Okay.
And when I say total garbage, I don't even necessarily mean that in a negative way.
Yep.
Because it's still super entertaining, but it is not based in any sort of reality anymore, and it only very loosely was to begin with. But this was in the slightly more reality-based seasons in which they covered this thing.
Okay. All right. That makes sense.
Mm-hmm.
I think I'm going to do my best to describe the Saqqara bird. It's like I told you, the size of it, but the bird itself looks plane-like. It's got
as an airplane-like,
as an
or as in
airplane-like,
boring? Okay.
airplane-like. It's got
It's a real simple bird.
That bird looked dumb as hell.
It's a very homely looking bird.
That birds are smart. That bird dumb as hell.
It's like when they used to describe like smart women in books in the 50s, they'd call them plain. You know what I'm talking about?
Yeah, I do. It's supposed to be like a.
Oh, you mean airplane?
I do.
Okay,
I do.
Carry on.
So the wing, it has bird wings that go across the top, but the wings are not separate wings. It's sort of one wing that goes across the top in, I'd call that like an elongated oval that goes across the top of the bird.
Okay. It's like a biplane bird?
Very much like a biplane, actually. And then the body of the bird has sort of a belly type hull and a wider wing tail with the nose of a bird, but sort of a coming to a point face in the front of it.
Okay. Cone shaped, perhaps?
Yeah, a bit conical. But it also has eye sort of divots, I guess, or eye sockets. Bird sockets.
Bird sockets.
Bird sockets.
Gross.
Sounds electrical. We won't go back to electricity. So the hypothesis around it was that it looked too sort of rigid in structure and too much like a contemporary biplane to not have had some sort of flying purpose.
I fucking hate that logic.
I do too.
As we're doing a whole episode based on that,
well,
that type of reasoning.
Not entirely.
It's so stupid to me.
We are and we're not. And I want to get to that at the end because I think there's good examples on both ends of the spectrum, and I want to get to that logic at the end.
I will hold on to my
your rant.
Yes.
There have been people, including the producers of Ancient Aliens, who have enlarged the Saqqara bird and have found that it is capable of gliding. Like you said, you can sort of drop this thing,
give it a toss.
Give this thing a drop or a toss off a mountain, and it knows how to stay afloat.
Didn't they add some things?
Well, so the one big skeptical hole in this is that without a stabilizer,
you're a big skeptical hole.
You're that.
No, you are.
Can we just change the description of all of the places our podcast lives to a big skeptical hole?
It's just me as a person. Hosted by Ryan Copperwood and a big skeptical hole. It's the What If Podcast.
Open eardrums. Oh, that's really good. AKA young baby skeptical hole.
Oh no, that's a terrible combination of words.
Dun, 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 dun.
I didn't have it ready. Sorry. It's all dicked over here, bud.
They added a stabilizer wing on the back of it to get it to do that. Basically, another smaller horizontal wing instead of a vertical wing.
Yeah, see, you're fucking with the whole thing at that point.
You are.
Oh, you know, the one big thing that's required for stuff to fly? Well, yeah, we just added that part.
For it to be stabilized. Yeah, they... Giorgio. Long hair is getting to your brain, bud.
Son of a bitch.
There are some that say there appears to potentially be a groove on the top or bottom of the tail fin where that might have been a thing that existed when this thing...
Its tail fell off.
Yep.
Tragic.
Very. But...
So, wait. This was also tiny, right?
Tiny.
And it was, it didn't have an actual purpose other than being like nice to look at and made of gold.
Again, we've got theories, but we don't entirely know what the theories are. Some say that it could have been like a child's toy. It's pretty small, would have fit into that. Some people also think that because of the way that the wings are sort of, like we talked about, like almost, well, I was going to say propeller-like, but that's not right. Some people think it could have been used as a boomerang, like you could have held the tail and whipped it, and that it would have potentially spun or come back around.
Were they really balling that hard that they would have plated kids' toys in gold?
It's not gold.
Oh.
It's just wood. It's just the sycamore wood. It's not. It doesn't have plating around the outsides. Yeah.
Lies.
Yeah.
Full of them.
Full of lies.
Just a big skeptical hole full of lies.
There we go. That's the name of the podcast. That is the description.
Mel's hole full of lies.
There we go.
Okay.
There's also
that makes way more sense then.
Yeah.
How did that survive for thousands of years?
I don't actually know. I mean, it was
seems unlikely.
It was in a tomb, so
it died.
Poor bird. Poor little wooden bird.
Maybe it's like an actual petrified bird.
It sure doesn't look like it. It's
okay. That's a good reason for it not to be.
It's a little
counterpoint. It isn't. It is not that.
I don't think so. If I had to think, I would think no.
If I had to think.
Uh-huh.
Luckily, we don't here.
No, luckily we don't. Or only when we want to, and then we can just turn off thinking when we don't.
But I guess what I'm getting at is like the ancient aliens angle is like, oh, they had airplanes and they made little toys based on them or something, right? Like, is that what they're implying?
Essentially, yes.
So we could find a child's toy that looks like a bird, but maybe sort of like an airplane.
Yes.
Wouldn't we be way more likely to find the fucking airplane that they had?
Yes.
So isn't this whole concept kind of dumb?
Well, I mean,
not the whole concept, but this example, isn't it kind of dumb?
It goes back to what we talked about of could we potentially not find those things? Could it have been dismantled for something else? Could it have been deteriorated?
Or I guess maybe a lesser implication would be that they knew about some of the basic principles of flight.
That's what I was going to say is the more like I think reasonable version is this was illustrative of the concept of aerodynamics in a way that is more realistic and more in line with our current understanding of aerodynamics than we would have thought that people at that time would have had.
That seems reasonable to me. But then that's not that surprising to me. Like, whenever the premise is that we know way more than ancient people did, that I just don't believe that. Like, ancient people were not inherently dumber than we are now. They had the same brains. They didn't have as much cumulative knowledge as we do.
That's a big one. They also,
but okay, when you look at the scale of human beings, we're looking at like at least 100,000 years from when our brains have been the exact same.
Yeah.
So so they were missing out on 2% of that, less than 2% of that probably.
Well,
and I understand that it's exponential, but that's only as we define it.
You're also looking at, there's also elements of like reified structures of calculation and physics. And
I guess all I'm saying is, how would we know if those things had existed in the past and just got lost at some point? We wouldn't.
No, we wouldn't. We wouldn't. Especially, I was just talking about this the other day, especially because when you go further back, things deteriorate. Especially things that, what if they made gliders that flew off of the pyramids and they were made out of bamboo and like cloth of some kind? We would have no idea because
they would never survive.
That would have never survived.
Although
anything.
This tiny wooden bird apparently did.
Yes, but the tiny wooden bird was put into, it
died and was given a proper burial.
Died and given a proper burial in its own tomb.
But it was a royal tiny bird.
It looks royal.
And I guess that's what I'm getting at is like the concept of seeing a bird flying and then wondering if you could do it seems like a pretty natural human thought process.
I mean, yeah.
There's no way that wasn't thought of until 1903 when we made a fucking airplane. That must have been in humans' brains since the first time that a human looked up and saw a thing flying.
There are written language examples of us talking about flying or soaring or all those things for thousands of years, far before we were actually able to do that as a species.
And like, yes, you have certain obstacles of like, we didn't have a whole lot of time to dedicate to those types of thoughts when we had to find food every day and make sure we didn't get killed by things every day.
By a mastodon.
Yes. Correct.
Just thinking of big old things that are scary.
Did they kill human beings?
I mean, if I was a mastodon, I'd be
Did you
be bowling for human beings every day.
Did you hear about the jaguar that broke out of its cage at the zoo and went on a killing spree, by the way?
Oh, man.
Yeah.
Just doing what doing what jaguars do.
Mm-hmm.
It's pretty good.
Killing alpacas. It just seems like that would be a very logical next step for a person with the same brain as me to take upon seeing a thing flying over them.
Right. But the question
And as soon as we had tools and the ability to like not have to spend all of our waking hours looking for food, it seems reasonable that somebody would have attempted to build something that could fly.
Yes.
And when, I don't know, like you can make a fucking paper airplane that flies pretty far. It's not the most advanced thing in the world to build a glider. Like, why is that mind-blowing that the people that were obviously very advanced as a culture may have had gliders? Like, that seems way less advanced than a lot of the shit we know they for sure did.
Like quarry fucking equitably sized multi-ton rocks and transport them for
or just the engineering
miles
necessary to build a pyramid or any of the stuff that they built or like the level of craftsmanship needed to do some of the like the carvings and the art and the stuff that they made. Like
for sure.
A glider like a child can make.
Yeah. I mean, not a glider that would sustain the weight of a child, but like a thing that would.
No, but all we're going on is like a little statue that looks like it maybe has some elements of like an understanding of aerodynamics or basic like principles of flight.
Mm-hmm.
Why is that crazy? That seems pretty reasonable to me.
Yeah, I mean, I think it's a good point. I think, I guess the way I understand it is we don't have any additional documentation of flight, like in written record or.
But how far back do our written records go?
Not far enough.
Like a few thousand years, right?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
And they're super like incomplete.
Right. Well, and this is the point that I was actually going to make too about when you go back further, the things would have deteriorated was the first thing I was going to say. And the second thing I was going to say is documentation was just fewer and further between.
Yeah.
We weren't like, the stuff that's written down fell apart easier and was less well preserved than like leather-bound books.
I don't know,
libraries.
unless you had some clay pots to stick it in.
I mean, that was one way to do it, I guess. But that's another way that like the written record disappears. So even if we did have written records of people using gliders just to fucking throw around or play with, or actually, I mean, who knows? Maybe that's how. Maybe like every time the pharaoh wanted to go check on the progress of the fucking pyramid, he would climb that thing and he'd be real sweaty and tired, and he would be like, "Yes, this is wonderful. Goodbye," and just. And just fucking sail off in his glider.
Yeah.
Glide right back to his tent.
Yeah, why not?
Eat some fucking grapes. Get some palm fronds waved at him. Have somebody, I don't know.
Yes.
Put a little bit of snake venom into his finger and trip balls for a little while.
Is that how they got fucked up?
Yeah.
Just get bitten by a snake?
Your Highness, I have brought you this snake. Yes. Let him nibble on my toe.
I would like to be paralyzed for the next 12 hours.
I shall trip balls with him.
Yeah, dude, I don't know. That wouldn't, maybe I'm too far into all this weird shit, but that wouldn't be that surprising to me.
No, I don't disagree with you. I just think for us, it's
good.
A hard,
well, the episode's over then.
I think it's a hard thing for
it
people to understand because there are also a lot of civilizations in between that we're not doing as far as we know.
They were the dumb ones.
A lot of flying.
Yeah, the Egyptians were smart. We know that.
Yeah, that's...
Some of the other, you got to have a few dumb cultures mixed in.
That's kind of part of it.
Yeah. That's why we pay attention to the Egyptians. They had some shit figured out.
Right. Do you want to?
I have a great transition from flight if you want to.
Okay, cool. I have another flight related one if we want to do it quickly. Otherwise, let's do yours. It's the Quimbaya artifacts.
I don't know about them. Are they as cool as the Nazca lines? That's what we're picking.
I'm bigger than you. I'm higher in the food chain.
Don't drop stuff onto there. It makes noise.
Holy bananas! I feel like I just had like a. I feel like I was just in the tunnel in Charlie and the Chocolate Factory.
Oh, great reference. Ryan has seen movies.
Woo!
God damn, bro.
What?
That was loud. It hurt.
I went that way.
Well, it still hurt my ear. Yeah, that's what we're choosing between Nazca lines or whatever that thing is that you just said.
Are we also gonna have time for?
Nope.
We're not gonna have time for the Antikythera mechanism.
We'll have to do it on Thursday, I guess.
Oh fuck! Damn, I'm actually legit kind of bummed about that.
Well,
All right,
I got some pretty heavy shit about the Nazca lines. You want to do those two on Thursday? And we'll do your little short guy right now. We got like 10 minutes.
Oh shit, we only have like 10 minutes. Well, no, because this is kind of this. Okay, I'm gonna tell you the Quimbaya artifact story. It's a quick one, and we'll see where we end up. If you want to finish the Nazca lines, we can, because I also want to talk about fucking ancient astronauts, dude.
Yeah.
Do we maybe need to do a two-parter on this?
We'll see.
All right.
Give us $5 if you want to hear the rest of the episode.
Yeah.
We'll hold you hostage for our shitty podcast.
It's not true.
No,
it's not true.
That's the worst. We won't do that.
It's not true. We won't do that.
Tell us your story. We're wasting time.
The Quimbaya artifacts are along the same lines of the Saqqara Bird, which is part of the reason I wanted to talk about it. Totally different place in the world. Totally different time period. We're talking about the year 1000 is they're roughly dated to. They were found in Colombia. And they are these little, skeptics say that they're modeled after bugs, but they appear to be far, far, far more like contemporary airplanes.
Those are pretty close to bugs.
Well, you'll see. I mean, they're
might
kind
be
of
a bug, might be an airplane. Hard to say.
They look like airplanes, but they're super ornamental. And they have these very like. Well, here, I'll just show you. You said you've never seen these before?
No, describe them for the peoples.
Okay. They have...
Or you can show it to me and I'll describe them to the peoples as a first-time viewer.
Okay, let's do it.
Flip that shit around, bruh.
Here you go.
You ever feel like if you're sitting across from somebody and you guys both have laptops that you should start calling out battleship numbers?
B7!
Oh, yeah. This might be the one I was thinking of when you were describing the other one, actually.
Okay.
Because I was. That's why I kept saying it was gold.
Oh yeah.
I was thinking of this one when you were describing the Saqqara Bird. So it looks to be relatively small. It's made of gold. It has sort of like it could be like a beetle shaped body, but could also maybe be like the fuselage of a plane.
Yep.
And it's got two sets of wings coming out from the center of it, and then or like wings and then like little tail wings, and then also a vertical tail fin or rudder looking thing.
I'd call it that.
Going up from the back, and it's pretty ornate and like carefully carved and shaped.
It looks like it would fly like shit because it's made of metal.
Well, right. It also looks like it's quite small, isn't it?
It is quite small.
And there's
They're
not
all
really
like
any
under 6
scale on
inches.
it. Okay, yeah. It looks like a fancy pin your grandma would wear if she really if she used to fly airplanes.
Mm-hmm.
You know, like the pilot's wings that they used to give little kids.
I absolutely do. I think
it looks sort of like that.
I think some
but
airlines
fancier
still
and
give them
bigger.
to them.
Yeah, I guess I just haven't been a kid lately.
But there are also there are many of them that are.
So are these all variations of and they were all found in the same location in Colombia?
Yeah, exactly. Hang on, I gotta figure out. I gotta remember.
I think when you said Saqqara, I thought of cicadas and thought of bugs, and then assumed you were talking about
the Quimbaya artifacts. Got it.
The old Chimborazo artifacts.
They're different, and they're different in the same sort of token as the Saqqara birds. There were people who created like models of them to try to see if they had aerodynamic capacities and capabilities. And they did. It was similarly to the Saqqara Bird stuff. They had the abilities to glide and fly. Some of them appeared too ornate for that. But the interesting,
you got to fancify it a little bit. They
True.
weren't building an actual airplane. They were building a nice brooch. Is that the word?
brooch could be the word.
Mm-hmm.
Yes. These are a little bit more, I would say, plane-like than the Saqqara Bird. Like they have fins and tails
Airplane
and
or
wings.
50s novel.
There you go.
You're saying airplane-like though.
What do you mean?
When you say plane, you mean airplane-like.
Oh,
right.
Got it. Yes.
Got it.
Yes. More airplane-like in their emulation of like.
Has anybody tried opening them up? Maybe they're like tiny people inside of them.
Oh, damn. Maybe that's what UFOs have been this whole time. They're just these
If
little
you were
golden
gonna go,
snitches.
If you were going to go, it's little snitches. If you were
snitches.
going way across the universe, it'd make sense to be small. I don't understand why. Like if we were going to send something way out into deep space, we wouldn't send something big. That's really inefficient. We'd send like a little probe. The smaller, the better. Mm-hmm. Space travelers are probably tiny. Is all I'm trying to say.
True.
Crack that thing open.
It's like Men in Black, the little mini alien in the head of the dude.
Saying. Out of nowhere today, I was asked when the last time I watched Men in Black was, and I don't know, but I feel like we should maybe watch it together soon.
I'm totally down.
And maybe do a Patreon offshoot called Ryan and Spencer Watch Movies.
Maybe we should, it'll be like
We
Mystery
should stop
Science
pitching
Theater.
ideas that we aren't going to follow through on live on the podcast also, because we've been
No,
getting
no.
some irritated
Look.
tweets about it.
612-246-4614
Why are people calling us?
and hi at whatifpodcast.com. If any of the stupid ideas we pitch on the show, just if you gravitate towards any of them,
Right, if they stick out as less stupid than the others.
you got to let us know so we go, all right, people seem like that one sounds fun. Let's do it.
Yeah. Okay.
We'll do like a Mystery Science Theater 3000
That's what I'm saying.
on the YouTube channel where we just narrate movies.
But we'll sit on the couch and watch a movie and put a camera behind us.
I don't think we can show. We could on the Patreon.
Yeah, whatever. Don't snitch on us.
Yeah,
It's
guys.
fine. It worked when we just played a bunch of songs we liked for an hour and called it a Patreon episode.
That's true. That's true. We having fun with it. But yeah, man, I think like to your point earlier, I think that this could 100% be a manifestation of a entirely similar concept.
This was, you said 1000-ish AD?
1000 AD.
Yeah, that seems totally reasonable to me, that people would have been thinking about flying and trying to build little things that looked like they could fly.
Especially if you're willing to accept that 1200 years previous in Egypt, a completely different civilization of people were carving birds that employed some of the same elements of aerodynamics. And 1200 years later, there's evolution of thought that's occurring everywhere, that these would be a little bit more plane-like in their existence.
I guess this just like seems pretty reasonable to me.
Yeah.
It's obviously another step to say human beings were building machines that could fly and fly humans around. That's another leap that we'll leave that one for Giorgio. But
Yeah. And I think we maybe should do a part 2 because there's a whole nother conversation about this, which is some people saying, and I completely agree with you, dude. Like, I think that it makes complete and total sense for civilizations to have been thinking about the concepts of flight. But there's a whole additional layer of, is it possible that there was inspiration for their desire to fly, or inspiration for their visions of what flying could be like?
The aliens told them about it.
Yeah.
Yeah, duh.
I mean,
Well, we know that they've been here for thousands of years, so
right?
it's only fair to assume.
Right?
All right, well, let's do part 2 next week, because I got a whole bunch of shit about the Nazca lines, which are very related to that specific angle that you're talking about.
Yeah, and I have a whole bunch of ancient astronaut stuff I want to talk about, and we have to talk about and I'm just going to say this wrong every time, Antikythera mechanism, because it's fucking fascinating.
Cool, I don't know what that is.
It's actually like my favorite one of these that
Perfect.
we've talked about. And
All right, so Thursday we'll just call Bear and talk to him for an hour.
okay,
And next week,
we're doing part 2 of What If You Found
some old weird shit.
Some Old Weird Shit. Except we can't say shit in our iTunes titles because they
You just
fucking
gotta
yell at
censor
you.
it.
We'll
That's fine.
say
Fuck them. They're not our dads.
We'll say F asterisk CK iTunes, comma, we found some old weird SH exclamation mark T.
Mm-hmm.
Fuckers. Just kidding. We love you. Don't take our podcast off.
We out of here!
All right, y'all. Thanks for listening. Make sure you tune into the Facebook Live episode and the live episode. Hey.
September 19th, Ice House, Minneapolis, Minnesota.
Y'all.
Come hang out with us.
And July 29th, 4 p.m. Central in the U.S. We try to do it so that the UK folks can be there at 10 p.m. and Australian folks can be there at 7 a.m. So
Ryan did the math.
We'll see if y'all...
Which means it's probably wrong.
Yeah, that's probably true.
Also, last 4 episodes, you were 4 for 4 on having typos in the title. Nice work.
Did I really? How's that possible?
4 in a row. It was incredible.
Oof.
What if you were abducted aliens, part 1? What if you were abducted aliens, part 2?
Oh, it's because I copied and pasted the title and then made it a 2.
You Victor, bud.
Victor, good.
Okay, see you next week.
I was
Bye.
just trying to get aliens further forward in the title.